Hey, kiddo. Boy, am I tired from that day I just had. You tired too? Well, either way, I'm sure tonight's story is gonna knock you out. I know you've been dying to hear the end of the last story. You know, the one with Annie and Twinkle, so here it is. I know it's an interesting story, but you gotta make sure you fall asleep, alright? And tonight, you won't be having any nightmares. Dad's here with you, and all the plushies I got you are here too. It's gonna be kinda long, so buckle up. So, close your eyes, get into a really comfortable spot. And now, loosen up those muscles. Just let your body relax. Perfect. You're doing great, kiddo. All right, let's start. Enya snapped her eyes open. Before she could even process where she was or what had happened, she let out a yelp. Cecilia? Twinkle craned his neck over, appearing before her eyes. Snap out of it, foolish mage. We've yet to find her. Another face appeared too. It was the golden-haired guard from the palace, Bertrand. Cecilia, how peculiar. I didn't know you were on a first-name basis with the princess. Enya sat up and looked around. Wherever she was, it definitely was not the palace. She was certainly in some sort of cave filled with stalactites and the presence of certain other oddities. For one, there were all sorts of creatures crawling around the area. Ogres, large spiders, gremlins, and many, many other dragons. Your ruthless dragon friend here dragged us to his grimy dragon den, spoke Bertrand. Unsurprisingly, you must have conveniently forgot about the part where you grabbed onto my tail and refused to let go, said Twinkle. Well, what was I supposed to do? Let go in midair? Twinkle snorts. You could have not seized my tail to begin with, but that also sounds like a suitable option. Now I must drench it in acid to rid of your putrid human smell. Enya groans. Must you two bicker right now? My head feels like it's being weighed down by sandbags. Bertrand knelt beside Enya. Well then, the strange-smelling green fellows over there have made you something to patch you up? He held out a bowl filled with mysterious sludge and bones. Would you rather eat it yourself or have me feed you? Enya tried to reach for the bowl herself, but found herself exhausted. So, without question, he assisted her in taking sips of the strange substance. To her surprise, it tasted quite delectable. It was a mix of sweet and savory with the consistency of pudding. With more and more sips, she could feel her strength slowly regaining. Maybe you were right to bring her here, you foul beast, said Bertrand. Twinkle snorted at the comment. Of course I was. Well, since you both are humans, I'm sure you can take care of each other. I have some business I want to take care of while I'm here. Twinkle stomped away, and Enya was now left with a strange man. She peered at his face, disregarding any attempt to be subtle. He didn't seem that much older than her. He had thin lips and very sharp features. She figured he might have been considered handsome to the townspeople. But she couldn't shake this weird feeling about him. She saw a strange vortex spiraling in his eyes. All right, please stop staring at me like that. Bertrand looked away, breaking Enya's focus. That's a charm spell, isn't it? Enya leaned forward. Her directness caught Bertrand off guard. But what? What will make you think that? Well, for one, you must have asked a really sloppy mage to do that. They left quite an obvious magic trail within your eyes. He furrowed his eyebrows and then held up his forearm's armor to verify. Despite his best efforts to hide his embarrassment, his face went flush. There's no need to be embarrassed. Charm spells are becoming more and more common these days. She paused. But I must ask, why would you use one? You don't seem like the type to need it. Bertrand's embarrassment quickly subsided when he heard her say that. So you think I'm handsome? She rolled her eyes, choosing not to answer. However, that didn't stop Bertrand's ego from inflating. He smirked and ran his hands through his luscious hair. Thank you. I do get that comment a lot. But, he paused, looking a bit awkward. It's not really meant for others. That's why you didn't feel charmed by me. It's for Cecilia, isn't it? Anya exclaimed. What? No, said Bertrand. Oh, her mother, said Anya. Bertrand stared at her, wide-eyed. No? I know a liar when I see one. Anya chanted gleefully. Wow, falling for the queen. You are in for trouble. Before Bertrand could reply, the entire den started rumbling. The monsters passing by paused as well. They all looked towards a tunnel where rockets could be heard from afar, and where Twinkle happened to pass through. Bertrand and Enya looked at each other, and it seemed like they exchanged the same thought. Bertrand got up and helped Enya onto her feet. The two wordlessly ran to the direction of the commotion. The rumbling ground threatened to shake them off balance as they dived deeper inside the dark tunnel. The sounds of roaring grew louder and louder until they reached the source. The two looked up and took in the sight. Twinkle was spewing fire from his snout, aiming it at another large dragon. The dragon, twice his size, even with Enya's spell wearing off of Twinkle, his scales mirrored the deep, dark blue of the ocean's depths. The mighty worm shot an icy beam towards Twinkle and batted his wings in Enya and Bertrand's direction, causing them to tumble over backwards. Bertrand's voice rose in warning. Enya, this is not a fight we must involve ourselves in. But the mage knew no fear. She gained her composure and stood back on her feet. She held out her hand and summoned magic around her fingertips. She swirled it around her palms until it formed a long horn. She sucked all the air into her lungs and blew out a melodious tone. The sound echoed through the cavern, a haunting melody that resonated within the very walls. Twinkle and the giant dragon paused in their battle, both momentarily stunned by the noise. The other creatures in the den fell silent, captivated by the magical tune. Enya continued to blow into the horn, the melody growing more intricate and more powerful. The magic in the air intensified, weaving itself into the notes she played. This was no innocent melody. It was a command, an ancient song meant to calm even the fiercest of beasts. Twinkle's fiery breath stilled, and the icy beam from the larger worm dissipated into a cool mist. The massive dragon's fierce gaze softened as it slowly lowered its head, acknowledging the power of the music. Twinkle, though still tense, took a step back, his eyes fixed on Enya. Bertrand, who had been ready to pull Enya away, watched in awe as the magic in the air wrapped around the dragons like a gentle breeze and easing their aggression. Enya lowered the horn and exhaled, her chest rising and falling with the effort. The spell had worked, at least for the moment. Twinkle huffed, smoke curling from his nostrils. You really are a foolish mage, throwing yourself into a dragon's fight. The larger dragon huffed icy fumes, acknowledging Enya's intervention. He then looked at Twinkle. Why are you really here, Twinkle? His deep, resonant voice echoed through the den, filled with both disdain and suspicion. I cannot let pass a traitor into the Witch's Cove. I take my role as protector seriously. Twinkle snorted. I'm no traitor, Waverand. I had my reasons for leaving. I've come because the kingdom of Anster is in peril, and I suspect the magic in that cove might be the only thing that can save it. Waverand scoffs. Since when were you the type to care about anything other than yourself? Don't pretend to know me, Waverand, Twinkle shot back, his voice low and dangerous. Maybe I've grown tired of watching everything around me crumble while I do nothing. Or maybe, just maybe, there's more to me than you've ever bothered to see. Either way, I'm here now, and I'm not leaving until this is done. Waverand eyed him for a long moment and slowly nodded. For your sake, I hope you have changed. We were meant to be protectors, not vile, greedy beasts. Now go. If you do not come back soon, I will fetch you and throw you out myself. Waverand stepped aside, revealing a hidden passage at the back of the cave, bathed in an eerie blue light. Twinkle hesitated for only a moment before stepping forward. Enya and Bertrand once again exchanged glances and followed him, determination etched on their faces. As they ventured deeper into the passage, the blue light grew brighter, and the air became thick with magic. The walls were lined with ancient runes, pulsing softly with power. They had no idea what awaited them at the end of the tunnel, but one thing was clear. The journey was far from over. As they ventured into the hidden passage, the air grew thick with an overpowering stench of rot and decay. The path opened into a sprawling, dimly lit town, a stark contrast to the grim exterior of the cave. The Witch's Cove was a labyrinth of narrow streets lined with crooked ancient houses. Smoke and mist rose from chimneys, adding an eerie haze to the scene. Lanterns hung from every doorway, casting flickering shadows that danced along the cobblestone streets. Twinkle grumbled, Ugh, the scent of these putrid witches is everywhere. Bertrand's face wrinkled in disgust as well. If the princess isn't here, I might have to find another reason to shut this town down. We need to find the princess quickly, Enya said, her voice strained but determined. She took a deep breath and raised her hand, summoning a glowing, ethereal light. I'll cast a guiding spell to trace the princess's energy. It should lead us to her. She held up her staff, and the magical light from her spell swirled around it. Her staff flung forward. She looked towards the two. The staff now twisted and turned in the direction that led to the princess. Enya led the way, with Bertrand and Twinkle following close behind. They navigated the crowded lanes, weaving between witches of all kinds, some with long, flowing robes, others in mismatched, eccentric attire. The air was filled with the murmur of incantations, the clinking of potion bottles, and cackles from witches who were enjoying their time. Twinkle lashed his tail irritably and shot annoyed glances at the witches passing by. He entertained himself with the thought of setting this entire town on fire. As they followed Enya further, the spell led them to an oddly opulent mansion at the edge of the cove. The mansion loomed ominously. It was covered top to bottom with obsidian-like walls and stained windows. Twinkle sniffed around. I don't smell any witches inside. Then shall we step inside? Enya asked. The three were in agreement and cautiously made their way in. Enya barely had any trouble letting herself in. With her magic, she was able to create a replica of the door's key and let herself in. When she pushed the door open, the three were met with an oppressive energy, one which made them want to shield their eyes. Enya's staff had started rattling as well. Bertrand yelped, My soul feels like it's leaving the confines of my body. The three stepped inside and looked upward at where the energy was coming from. They were met with a massive glowing orb that dominated the room and ominously floated near the ceiling. The orb radiated an intense, almost blinding light that made it difficult to look directly at it. The energy it emitted was so palpable that it seemed to thrum through the very walls, and his eyes widened as she struggled to grasp the overwhelming energy radiating from the orb. Could this be the princess's energy? She wondered aloud, her voice barely audible over the throbbing pulse of the orb. Before anyone could respond, a chilling voice echoed through the room. I knew I would have some visitors sooner or later. From the shadows of the mansion's grand hall, the queen emerged, her regal attire flowing with an air of menace. Her eyes glowed with a malevolent intensity as she approached the trio. Your Majesty, are you okay? Let me take you away from here, Bertrand cried out, rushing up a flight of stairs towards her. Before he could reach her, the queen's gaze locked onto him. With a flick of her hand, she unleashed a force so powerful it sent Bertrand crashing back against the wall with a deafening thud. The impact was so immense, it felt as if it came from something beyond human strength. Anya gasped. She was unsure if he would even be alive from a fall like that. To her shock, he struggled but began to regain his footing. A look of disbelief and pain etched across his face. He tried to summon his charm spell, his eyes gleaming with the magic's influence as he hoped to sway her will. Your Majesty, he said, attempting to project confidence despite his clear distress. You must be under a witch's spell. Let me. But the queen's eyes remained icy and unyielding, untouched by the spell's effect. She glared at Bertrand with disdain. Your petty magic is meaningless against me. Do you think a mere charm could ever control one such as I? Bertrand's face flushed with embarrassment and frustration as he staggered back, realizing his spell had no effect. His hands trembled as he wiped the blood from his brow, his bravado shattered. Anya watched in horror as the queen's power seemed to amplify, the orb's light pulsing in sync with her cruel smile. The queen turned her attention back to Anya in a twinkle, her gaze filled with a mix of contempt and determination. Enough of this charade. You've intruded upon my domain and witnessed the power I hold. Now, you will pay the price for your audacity. The room grew even colder as the queen prepared for the final confrontation. The oppressive energy from the orb intensified, a clear sign that the time for subtlety had ended and that a fierce battle was about to unfold. Anya's eyes widened in shock as she took in the scene. She had heard stories of the queen from the princess, but had never imagined she could be capable of such cruelty. This can't be real, Anya murmured, her voice trembling. The queen turned her gaze to Anya, a cruel smile playing on her lips. Oh, but it is very real, Mage, and it is far from over. Why are you doing this? Anya demanded, her voice rising with a mix of anger and confusion. Why betray your kingdom like this? The queen's eyes gleamed with a cold, calculating fire. It's quite simple, really. I want this kingdom to crumble, along with its pitiful king and that insipid princess. When everything falls apart, I'll swoop in and save it. The people will be desperate, and I'll be their only hope. The power, the adulation, it will all be mine alone. And his jaw clenched as she processed the queen's twisted logic. The king is your husband. The princess is your child. Are you really willing to destroy their lives along with everyone else's just to have power? Without missing a beat, the queen curled her lip. Why, yes. I only married that pathetic oaf of a man and bared his child just for this very moment. The queen's laughter echoed through the hall, filled with dark satisfaction. Think of me how you will, but you won't stop me. I will have this kingdom, and no one, especially not a band of misfits like you, will stand in my way. With a sudden menacing gesture, the queen summoned a torrent of dark magic that crackled and surged toward Enya and Twinkle. The two barely had time to react as the energy surged through the room, shattering nearby furniture and sending a shockwave through the air. Twinkle roared and unleashed a wave of fire, clashing against the queen's dark magic in a fiery explosion. The heat and energy of their combined powers created a chaotic battleground. Enya summoned her own protective shield, but the force of the queen's magic was overwhelming. Bertrand, though dazed, managed to stand up once again and draw his sword. He knew he was no match. His mind began to spin, wondering how he could make himself useful in this situation. The battle raged on with fierce intensity, each combatant pushing their abilities to the limit. Twinkle shot a pillar of flame through his mouth, clashing once again with the dark magic in a dramatic display of power. Enya joined in, her magic intertwining with Twinkle's fiery attack, her determination unwavering despite the overwhelming odds. The queen's laughter rang out above the chaos, a chilling reminder of the dark threat she posed. The fate of the kingdom and their own lives hung in the balance as they fought to stop this queen's nefarious plan. Suddenly, a door burst open, and the sound of a thud followed. The princess had stumbled out of her room. Enya was taken aback, almost stopping her attack to run after her. Cecilia! Both Bertrand and Enya cried out. Mother, you must stop, please. The princess's voice was a shadow of its former strength, barely a whisper against the roar of dark magic. Her once regal appearance was now frail and gray, her eyes hollow and pleading, locked onto her mother. The queen glanced at her weakened daughter, but she seemed to take no mind. Stay out of this. I will reshape this kingdom as I see fit. Don't waste my time with your whining. Bertrand watched the princess crawl towards her mother, desperation in her eyes. The princess, gasping for breath, reached out to Bertrand. He ran towards her side in the midst of the battle, remaining unnoticed. You must help them, Twinkle and Enya. They need to destroy the orb to free everyone. I can't stop her, but you must distract her long enough for them to act. Bertrand nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. He glanced over at Enya and Twinkle, who were preparing their next move. The queen was focused on them, but her dark magic was still swirling dangerously. Desperation set in for Bertrand. He closed his eyes and summoned every ounce of willpower left in him. Please, I just need a bit of strength. The magic from the charm, which had failed to influence the queen, now surged through him. He felt his arms pulse with strength and his armor clink with a resonant, fortified solidity. He looked around and spotted a heavy, ornate statue positioned precariously near the side of the room. With a grunted effort, Bertrand tapped into the newfound strength and heaved the statue towards the queen, taking her by surprise. The statue crashed down with a thunderous noise, pinning the queen's legs and forcing her to the ground. The queen roared in fury and struggled against the statue's weight, but Bertrand, using the charm's residual power, pressed down with all his might. His own body trembled from the exertion, but he managed to keep the heavy object in place, temporarily restraining her. Enya, Twinkle, Bertrand shouted, his voice strained but urgent. The orb! Destroy it! It'll set the kingdom's energy free! Enya, her staff shaking in her hands, glanced at Twinkle. With Bertrand's distraction buying them precious moments, they focused their combined strengths on the orb. Enya began chanting a spell, her magic swirling around her fingertips. She directed a concentrated beam of energy at the orb, while Twinkle unleashed a powerful stream of fire aimed right at its base. The orb's glow began to falter, its intense energy flickering and dimming. The queen's enraged roars filled the room as she tried to free herself from the statue's weight, but her efforts were in vain. The orb's light grew increasingly unstable, pulsing erratically. And soon, the orb shattered with a brilliant explosion of light and energy, its dark influence dissipating into the air. The queen screamed in fury and disbelief as the power she had siphoned from the kingdom was released. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, and the princess, though weakened, felt her energy slowly returning. A silence took over the room as the queen stopped her screeching as well. It seemed like she drew her power from the orb. Bertrand, finally able to release the statue's weight from the queen, stumbled back, exhausted but relieved. We must have done it. The kingdom should be safe. Cecilia. Enya dropped her staff and ran towards her. The princess stood up and hugged the young mage. She whispered in her ear, I knew you'd find me. Bertrand stumbled to the exhausted dragon. They both collapsed to the floor, huffing and puffing. This is what I get for helping you humans. Bertrand smirked. You act burdened, but I know this must have meant more to you than your leading on. After all, it is a dragon's nature to protect. Twinkle glared at him. He couldn't admit it, but Bertrand was right. Twinkle's gaze softened as he watched the princess and Enya together. He thought about the towns and kingdoms he'd once dismissed as insignificant, and how they actually held a special place in his heart. He had grown weary of simply scaring people away and focusing solely on the treasure in his cave. Now he longed for something more, a purpose beyond riches, to protect, to be part of something greater. Turning to Bertrand, he said curtly, Perhaps you're right. I'm done with just guarding my hoard. I want to change and be a part of something grander. Bertrand raised an eyebrow, surprised. I didn't think dragons like you had a heart. As Bertrand smirked, taken aback by the dragon's unexpected admission, Enya and Cecilia approached, hand in hand. They both looked exhausted, but relieved. Thank you. I'm not a fan of being a damsel in distress, but, Cecilia said, her voice filled with gratitude. Without you three, I don't think the kingdom could have survived. I would have been long gone as well. Don't say that, Enya replied, her face stern. Bertrand smiled and bowed deeply to the princess, despite his aching body. Regardless, it was my honor to assist you, Your Highness. His smile wavered. But the queen, Cecilia spoke up. She was nothing but a fraud. Tears pricked her eyes. I had a feeling since I was a child. There was nothing genuine about her. She treated me worse than garbage. I hope my father and I can heal now that she's finally gone. Enya held Cecilia's hand tighter. But, despite feeling so alone, especially in that palace, I was glad to know I had one genuine friend. The princess turned to Enya and smiled. Enya spoke up, her voice low. It is I who saved you now, but in our youth, you were the one who saved me. The statement took the princess by surprise. Enya continued. You saved me from a hopeless life on the streets. You let me secretly stay in your spare room, fed me, kept me warm. I only became a talented mage because you gifted me more life than I thought I deserved. If I wasn't the one to save you, countless other people would have, because of the kindness in your heart. The princess wept into Enya's arms upon hearing that. It was clear that the bond between them was more precious than gold. Twinkle's smile softened, rare and genuine. You may have lost a mother, but you've gained something more valuable, an unbreakable bond. Even someone like me, who was once just a bitter dragon guarding his treasure, has been moved by Enya's dedication. I suppose I've learned there's more to life than sitting in a cave and hoarding gold. And I suppose I've learned something too, Bertrand added, that I'm far too handsome to be using a charm spell anyway. The group let out a light-hearted laugh at his semi-serious statement. As they stood together, a sense of relief and camaraderie settled over them. The kingdom's future seemed a little brighter with the queen's malevolent plans thwarted. Each of them had found something they needed, a purpose, a bond, and a renewed hope. With that, the four of them stepped out of the dark mansion with their heads held high. Whew, what a story, kiddo? It's inspiring me with hope, too. My favorite character had to be Twinkle. Who knew he was such a softie? Well, I hope that'll be able to send you to sleep soon. This story has always been a comfort of mine, so if you ever want me to read it to you again, I'll be glad to. Alright, I'll be turning out the lights now. Sleep well, okay, kiddo? I love you. Good night.